Okay, let's dive into this. If you've spent any time at all on the internet or, in therapy, you have almost certainly heard about attachment styles. It's this framework that's just become incredibly popular for understanding ourselves and our relationships. So, which one are you? I mean, chances are you've taken a quiz or read an article that sorted you neatly into one of these boxes. Maybe a partner even threw a label at you during an argument. You get the label, and maybe it feels like it fits, but then what? What are you actually supposed to do with it? And that's usually where things get stuck. See, here's the problem. Pop psychology often stops right there, at the label. It's great at telling you what you do, but it leaves out the most fascinating and, frankly, the most empowering part: why your brain does it in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong, these labels aren't useless. They're often descriptively accurate. They're pretty good at describing the patterns we can see. But they don't explain the actual mechanism that's happening under the hood, in your nervous system. And that's what we're going to explore. So, here is the crucial point, the big shift in thinking. Your attachment style isn't some fixed personality trait. It's not like your eye color. It's a learned strategy. It's the specific way your brain has figured out how to solve a really fundamental problem, how to minimize surprises and errors in your closest, most important relationships. To really get this, we have to see the brain for what it is: a prediction engine. This isn't some brand new idea, by the way. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, he called these things internal working models, basically mental maps of how relationships work. But today, we can be even more precise. What Bowlby called an internal working model, modern neuroscience calls a generative model. You can think of it as your brain's operating system for relationships. Your attachment style is your generative model for connection. It's the set of rules your brain uses to guess what's going to happen when you reach out to someone. And when reality doesn't match up with your brain's prediction, you get what's called a prediction error. It's that jolt of, wait, that's not what I expected. Every single attachment style is simply a different strategy for managing and minimizing these kinds of glitches. So, let's re-examine the four familiar styles, but not as personality flaws. Let's look at them as four brilliant and often very rational strategies for managing these prediction errors. Let's start with the secure style. We can think of this one as a prediction engine that's really well calibrated. It's not perfect, of course, but for the most part, it runs pretty smoothly. A secure system has learned that, generally speaking, connection is reliable. So when a partner is a little distant, it registers a prediction error, sure, but it doesn't immediately panic. It treats the error as new information to investigate, not as a catastrophe. It can stay curious because its core prediction is that repair is possible. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the anxious style and how it solves the prediction problem. What it does is it essentially cranks the volume dial all the way up to maximum on any signal that could possibly indicate a threat to the connection. This means a simple delayed text message can generate a prediction error that feels as big as an abandonment event. The system isn't being dramatic. It's running a model where ambiguous signals are weighted as extremely high risk. This creates a constant need for reassurance because it's trying to resolve these nonstop, high-volume error signals. And here's why this is so important. This model was trained on noisy, inconsistent data. When the stakes are survival, the most rational thing you can do is become hypersensitive so you never, ever miss a threat signal. That was a brilliant adaptation. The avoidance style uses the complete opposite strategy. Instead of turning the volume up on social signals, it learns to turn them way, way down. It basically just stops listening. This system learned that reaching out for connection leads to painful prediction errors that it just can't fix. So the most efficient way to minimize that pain is to stop processing the signals that cause it. A bid for connection from a partner might literally not even register because the system has learned to deprioritize that entire category of input. This strategy was trained by a caregiver who was reliably unavailable. The infant's brain learned a very clear lesson: my signals don't get a response. So it stopped sending them. And again, this was a perfectly rational adaptation to its environment. Okay, so we have two pretty coherent strategies. Either amplify the signal or mute the signal. But what happens when the data the brain receives is so contradictory that it can't settle on any single strategy at all? Well, this is the disorganized style. It forms when the source of safety is also the source of threat. The brain gets this impossible input. Approaching my caregiver predicts both comfort and danger. It can't build a stable model from that. The result is a system that just oscillates, pushing and pulling, because it's trying to run two contradictory predictions at the exact same time. Seeing attachment this way, as a strategy, not a static trait, is so incredibly hopeful. Because if it's a strategy, that means we can learn a new one. This is all about recalibrating your system. So the goal isn't to change your core personality. It's to adjust the precision settings on your prediction engine, turning down the signals that are way too loud and turning up the ones that have been too quiet. So how does this happen? Well, the brain doesn't update just from intellectual insight alone. It updates through new experiences. Specifically, new relational experiences that prove the old predictions wrong. And they have to be delivered in doses your nervous system can actually handle. This is what's known as earned secure attachment. It's a recalibration, not a personality transplant. So, I'll leave you with this question. Understanding that your attachment style is just a clever strategy your brain developed, not a life sentence, what new experiences can you seek out? What new, more flexible strategy can you start training your prediction engine on, starting today?